Stop. Listen to me for a moment. If you feel like money comes in and then disappears, arguments start out of nowhere, and your home feels heavy in a way you can't quite explain, it's not an accident that you're here. If you have salt in your kitchen, you already have in your hands an ancient symbol of protection and order within the home, and almost no one uses it the right way. And today I'm going to show you the number one mistake people make with salt, a mistake that may be keeping that leak open, even when you feel like you're doing everything right. Stay with me, because today you're going to discover 5 mysteries, and the 5th one is the one that most changes the atmosphere of a home. First, this is not about sprinkling salt all over the house like a charm. The key here is awareness and the right place. Now take a little salt, just a pinch. The first step is this. It needs to be visible and connected to your table, because the table is the center of provision and peace in a home. This is a symbolic teaching found in public Jewish traditions. It's not magic, it's a reminder of order, protection, and intention. And when you understand this, you stop patching holes and start closing the leak at the root. Now I want you to be part of this with intention. Write in the comments, "Peace lives in my home." Don't write it for me. Write it as your own decision, like a seal, and subscribe now. Here, we talk about home protection, ethical prosperity, and peace, in a respectful, practical way, always with one simple step you can apply. Now take a breath, because I'm going to give you the first step in a simple and grounded way. The first thing I need you to understand is this. Don't go spreading salt around the house like it's a lucky charm. A lot of people do this with good intentions, but without direction. And when we act without direction, the mind gets anxious, the heart gets restless, and the house keeps the same heavy feeling. The point here is awareness and the right place. So I'm going to start with the basics, the easiest thing you can do today with no cost and no complication. If you can today, place a small amount of salt in a simple container. A salt shaker is perfectly fine, and leave it visible on the table where you usually eat or serve food. This doesn't need to be a long ritual. It's a small gesture, but a meaningful one, because the table in this symbolic view is the center of provision and connection. It's where the family gathers, where words are exchanged, where tension shows up, and where peace can also return. Now here's the detail almost no one does. It's not just placing the salt, it's placing it and for 5 seconds remembering the purpose. You can say quietly to yourself, very simply, "May there be order, peace, and protection in this home." That's it. Short, no drama, no exaggeration, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing. After you do this, watch for a sign in the next few hours. A very ordinary sign, but a very revealing one. It could be a conversation that doesn't turn into an argument, a feeling of relief in your body, the urge to organize something you've been putting off, or simply a sense of lightness, because when you start bringing intention into everyday life, you change your inner climate, and the inner climate changes the atmosphere of the home. Now let me frame this properly with respect. What I'm sharing here is a symbolic and educational perspective, inspired by public Jewish traditions, the ones that speak about values, spiritual memory, and daily awareness. This is not magic. This is not a promise of miracles. It's a way to bring presence and order using a simple element everyone already has. And why salt? Because in the physical world, salt has a very clear function. It preserves, it maintains, it holds things together, it keeps things from spoiling too quickly. And when we look at that symbolically, the message is beautiful. What do you want to preserve in your home? Peace, respect, connection, calm. So many women tell me, "I just want my home to feel light again." And I understand, because when a home feels heavy, the heart often feels heavy too. What we're doing here is simple. We're starting to close the leak at the most central place. This isn't about patching holes. It's about going to the root of what sustains the atmosphere. What's spoken, what's thought, what's repeated every single day. In a moment, I'm going to show you the first mystery, the one that explains why such a small gesture has such a big impact, and how it connects to an ancient principle of protection and stability. And before we continue, if this kind of content feels good to you, direct, respectful, and practical, subscribe to the channel. Here you'll get simple steps you can apply in everyday life, without exaggeration and with real clarity. Now, let's go to the first mystery. I want you to listen calmly, because this may change the way you see what happens inside your home. The first mystery is this. Salt, when placed with awareness, works like a seal of order, not a seal of superstition, a seal of remembrance, of direction, of alignment. You know when you walk into a place and everything feels off? Everyone in their own corner. Words come out sharp, moods shift quickly, and anything can turn into an argument. It's not that people are bad. Often it's just a lack of center, a lack of a grounding point. And for many people, the table is where this shows up the most, because that's where real life happens. That's where we talk, complain, figure things out, get irritated, go quiet, and it's also where we can rebuild. That's why salt on the table is not a detail. It becomes a quiet reminder. In this home I choose order, I choose care, I choose peace. And notice something, salt doesn't spoil easily. It stays, it holds, it doesn't disappear overnight. Symbolically, that's a powerful message for women like you, who often hold the home together from the inside, because you're like that too. You hold a lot. You try to keep everything standing, even when you're tired, even when you're overwhelmed. Now I'm going to ask you a question that's worth gold. Answer it honestly inside your heart. What have you been trying to hold on to all by yourself? Some women try to hold the house together, hold the finances, hold the peace, hold everyone else's mood. And in the middle of all that, they slowly lose themselves. The first mystery calls you back to the center. And the center, in this case, starts with a simple daily gesture that gives you back a sense of control. So let's make this practical. Starting today, before your first meal of the day, or at least before an important meal, go to the table, look at the salt, and do two things. First, for a moment, remember what you want to preserve. It can be just one word: peace, or respect, or calm. Second, say a short sentence silently, as a direction for the home. You can use this one. May there be order and protection here. May peace remain. That's it. Now pay attention to this. The power isn't in sounding nice. The power is in doing it with sincerity. That's why it works for the right people. Because it's not performance, it's intention. And I know someone might think, but why would this change anything? Because a home responds to what's repeated. A home responds to what's fed. And many times, without realizing it, what are we feeding? Anxiety, fear, complaining, rushing, guilt. When you create even a small point of awareness, you interrupt the autopilot. And breaking autopilot is the first step to changing the atmosphere. Now let me give you a very clear sign that you may need this first mystery. If in your home it goes like this, you sit down to eat and before the meal is even finished, someone starts criticizing, making demands, or bringing up heavy topics. That's a sign the table has lost its role as the center. It's become a battleground. I'm not saying you'll fix everything in one day, but you will start setting an invisible boundary, a direction. Here, we're going to treat each other differently. And here's one important note, especially since this is a newer channel, I'll say it in one sentence. If this is helping you, stay with me and subscribe because we build this step by step with clarity and respect. Now I want you to participate because that amplifies everything. If this first mystery is making sense to you, comment below. Peace lives in my home. Write it as a personal commitment, a decision. Because when you write it, you're telling yourself, I'm not going to accept living in chaos as if it were normal. And stay with me, because in the next mystery, I'm going to show you something many people feel but can't quite name. The heaviness in the environment, that draining atmosphere, and how a simple gesture can begin to clear it, without exaggeration and without superstition. Let's move on to the second mystery. Now, the second mystery. I want you to think of your home as a living place, a place that absorbs what happens every single day. The second mystery is this: the table is not just a place to eat. The table is a place of atmosphere. And when the atmosphere at the table feels heavy, the whole house feels it. You know those days when you wake up and everything already feels irritated? A sharp word, a cold look, a conversation that turns into an argument. And you think, what did I do? Sometimes it's not anyone's fault. It's build-up, wear and tear, exhaustion, an environment loaded with unresolved things. And I know this hits you deeply because women tend to sense the atmosphere before anyone else. You walk into the room and you feel it. You look at the table and you already know if things might go wrong. You feel it in your body. So hear this gently. You're not exaggerating. You're perceiving. So what role does salt play here in this symbolic reading? In the physical world, salt preserves. It also separates what's pure from what spoils. In the symbolic world, it becomes a reminder of boundaries. From here inward, I choose a cleaner atmosphere. I choose better words. I choose peace. Now I'm going to give you a simple gesture that you can do without drawing attention. And that works very well, because it's discreet and real. Before eating, when the bread is on the table, when the food is served, you take the salt and do one thing. Touch the salt lightly with your fingertips, then gently touch the bread. Or simply bring your hand close to the plate, as if marking an intention. No need to make a scene. It takes just a few seconds. In that moment, say a short sentence silently. You can use this one. May nothing heavy enter me. May only what is good remain in this home. That's it. So why does this work so well in real life? Because this gesture creates three effects at the same time. First, it brings you into the present moment. You step out of autopilot. Second, it gives you a sense of agency. You're no longer a hostage to the atmosphere. Third, it creates a pause before the conversation begins. And in real life, that changes a lot. Do you know why? Because many arguments don't start over big issues. They start because someone comes in tense, someone speaks sharply, someone is already upset about something else, and the table becomes the place where everything explodes. When you create this tiny pause, you change the rhythm, and changing the rhythm changes the outcome. Now pay attention to a mistake that cancels this mystery. The mistake is trying to clean the atmosphere, while at the same time feeding it with hurtful words. I know sometimes we speak impulsively. I know sometimes we're at our limit, but this mystery invites you to make one choice. One less word, one more pause. I'm going to suggest a simple agreement you can make with yourself for 7 days. Before sitting down to eat, think, today I'm not going to add fuel to the fire, today I'm going to lower it. That's applied spirituality. That's real protection. And let me tell you something many people are ashamed to admit. There are homes where people avoid the table. Avoid sitting together. Avoid eating in peace. Because the table has become a place of tension. If this happens in your home, don't blame yourself. You're not alone. Many women live this silently, and that's exactly why I like teaching gestures like this. Because it's a beginning, it's a first thread of light, and when you pull the right thread, the whole fabric begins to change. Now I want to invite you to participate, because that strengthens everything. If you want your home to feel lighter, comment here. Nothing heavy rules my home. Write it calmly, as a decision, because you were not made to live under constant weight. And stay with me, because in the third mystery, I'm going to touch a very specific wound. When money comes in and disappears and you don't understand why, I'm going to show you how this shows up in the atmosphere of the home and what simple adjustment can change the direction. Let's go to the third mystery. Now the third mystery. And I want you to listen without fear and without guilt, because this touches something many women carry in silence. The third mystery is this. When there's a leak in provision, there's almost always a leak in the energy of the home. And I'm not talking about energy as something abstract or mystical. I'm talking about direction, habits, repetition, emotional climate. You've probably lived this before. Money comes in, and then it's gone. You look at it and think, how? I barely bought anything. Then bills show up. Unexpected expenses, costs that appear out of nowhere, and it feels like you're always chasing life instead of catching up. When that happens, the home changes. The house feels more tense. Conversations get harder. Patience gets shorter. The body feels heavier, because financial stress sits right on the chest. And here I want to touch something very real. Many times the woman becomes the center of everything. She holds the home together. She holds the emotional balance. She holds the finances. She holds the decisions. And when something slips through, she blames herself. But I want to remind you of this. You are not the problem. You are doing the best you can with what you have. What almost no one taught you is this. Provision needs 3 things working together: order, intention, and boundaries. Without those 3, money slips away like water. That's why, symbolically, salt comes in as a reminder. Because in the physical world, salt prevents things from spoiling. It holds. It preserves. And in everyday life, that turns into a very practical question. What is leaking in your home every single day? Sometimes it's not just money. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's respect. Sometimes it's emotional energy. Now I'm going to give you a simple adjustment that strongly affects this feeling of leakage, especially for women over 50 who've already lived a lot and are tired of empty promises. The adjustment is this: turn the table into a point of order for provision. What does that mean? Starting today, when you place the salt on the table, say a short sentence silently, with calm firmness. I honor my provision. I honor my home. Nothing is lost here. Then do something that may seem small but is powerful in real life. Choose one simple decision related to order. Just one, not 10. For example, today I won't leave dishes in the sink overnight. Today I'll put all bills and paperwork in one place. Today I'll cut one small expense that keeps leaking out. Today I'll stop buying impulsively to soothe anxiety. Because pay attention, leaks don't start big. They start with small things that repeat. And there's a delicate point here, and I want to speak with kindness. Sometimes we try to fill an inner emptiness by buying things, and that's human, especially when the house feels heavy, when affection is missing, when recognition is lacking. People buy to feel relief for a few minutes, but afterward come guilt, fear, tension, and the house feels even heavier. The third mystery is about breaking this cycle with one simple gesture. Before buying anything that isn't necessary, pause for 5 seconds and ask yourself, is this a need or is this anxiety? If it's anxiety, return to the center. Take a breath, drink some water, sit for a minute, touch the salt on the table and repeat the sentence. I honor my provision. Nothing is lost here. This is real protection. This is ethical prosperity. No exaggeration. Now let me give you a very common sign that this leak is active in the home. When you feel like you're rushing all the time, but never arriving. You do and do and do, and still, it feels like something is missing. That's emotional leakage. And it eventually shows up in money. I know this hurts, because it's exhausting. But here's the good news. When you close the small leak, you change the path of the big one. And I'll make a quick invitation here because a new channel needs to build community. If this is making sense to you, subscribe. Not for me, for you. Because we're going to walk this together, one step at a time. And now I want your participation because it strengthens everything. Comment below. My provision is blessed and well cared for. Write it as someone who's putting order back into their heart, without fear. And stay with me, because in the fourth mystery I'm going to reveal a detail that cancels everything without you realizing it. It's a simple, common mistake. One that makes people think they're protecting themselves, when in reality, they're leaving the door wide open to chaos. Let's go to the fourth mystery. Now comes the fourth mystery, and I'm going to be very direct, because this is where most people give up. The fourth mystery is this. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And there's one detail that cancels everything, even when the intention is good. That detail is simple. Doing it from fear. Doing it thinking, I hope this works because I can't take it anymore. Doing it with desperation, as if the home were already doomed. I know when life tightens, the heart tightens too. But when you do anything from fear, you don't create order. You create tension. And even if you don't notice it, the house does. Because fear has a language: urgency, rigidity, constant pressure, impatience. And that creates exactly the opposite of what you want. So let me show you how this mistake shows up in everyday life. A woman puts the salt on the table, but her mind is already racing through the bills, everything that's missing, everything she can't control. Then someone says something and she reacts. And just like that, the gesture becomes just another task on the list. No presence. Another way this mistake shows up is when someone does it just to test it with inner sarcasm. They do it to see if it works, but with a closed heart. And then they conclude, it doesn't work. But how could it work? If the gesture meant to bring order has turned into a scene of doubt, heaviness, and irritation. Now pay attention, because I'm going to give you the key to avoid this. The key is this. Every time you use this symbol, you must choose your inner state. And the right state is simple. Calm firmness. Not excitement, not desperation, calm firmness. It's saying to yourself, I am in charge of my home. I start with the simple. I act with consistency. And here's a very important point for women over 50. You've been through too much to live in panic. You don't deserve to stay on high alert all the time. You deserve peace. So what I'm asking you now is a small adjustment that changes everything. Before touching the salt, Take one slower, deeper breath, just one, and think, I return to center. Then touch the salt and say a short phrase. You can use this one. I choose order. I choose peace. I choose protection. That's it. This is the secret that cancels the mistake of fear. You change the state before the gesture. And when you change the state, the gesture becomes an anchor. The house feels it. The body feels it. The tone of conversations changes. Now there's a second detail that also cancels everything, and many people don't realize it. It's when the table becomes a place of constant complaining, not a serious, necessary conversation, but repeated complaints. Every day the same topics, the same weight, the same criticism, and the table slowly becomes bitter. I know that many times women do this because they're tired and they want to be heard. But I want to tell you this gently. You can be heard without destroying the atmosphere of your home. So make an agreement with yourself for 7 days. If you need to talk about a problem, choose a moment outside of mealtime. During meals, choose a better word, a lighter topic, a small moment of gratitude. It may sound simple, but this is what restores dignity to the table. And do you know what happens when the table regains its dignity? The home begins to breathe again. Now I want to bring you to an emotional peak here, because this mystery isn't really about salt. It's about you. So many women are tired of feeling alone inside their own homes, tired of doing everything and still hearing criticism, tired of trying to keep the peace while no one helps, and that hurts. So I want you to remember this truth. You have the right to build a lighter home, and you don't need permission to begin. If you feel this, comment with a very simple sentence. I deserve lightness in my home. That's it. It's not drama. It's truth. And stay with me, because now comes the fifth mystery. And it's the most transformative one. Not because it's magical, but because it touches something that changes life from the inside out. Renewal, forgiveness, restoration. And when this happens inside a home, the atmosphere changes, words change, and hope returns. Let's go to the fifth mystery. Now comes the fifth mystery, and I want you to listen with an open heart because this is for those who are tired of carrying so much weight. The fifth mystery is this. A home changes when you restore yourself on the inside, because a home is not just walls and furniture. A home is atmosphere, it's memory, it's what was held in silence. There are things we swallow. We swallow them to avoid arguments. We swallow them to avoid being a burden. We swallow them so we don't cry in front of others. And all of that becomes a load, a knot inside. And how does that load show up? A tiredness that never goes away, irritation without a clear reason, the feeling that nothing flows, and often a heart that no longer believes the home can feel light again. I want to tell you something with respect and firmness. You were not made to live hardened. You were made to live in peace. And here salt comes in as a symbol of something very deep, a new beginning. Because in the physical world, salt also dissolves. It works on what has become embedded. And in the symbolic world, the message is this. I don't have to stay trapped in what happened. I can begin again. But pay attention, beginning again is not pretending nothing happened. Beginning again is stopping the bleeding on the inside while the world keeps demanding strength on the outside. Now I want to tell you a simple story, because stories reach places explanations can't. Imagine a woman who spent years holding the home together. She was the first to wake up and the last to go to bed. She did everything. She solved everything. She took care of everyone. But inside her there was stored sadness, quiet resentment, a sense of injustice. She didn't speak because no one understood, and when she did speak, it turned into conflict. So she went silent. And the house became cold. Not cold in temperature, cold in affection. Conversations grew shorter, looks grew harder, and she began to feel like life was stuck. One day she decided to do something different, something small but true. She placed the salt on the table and said silently, I return to myself, I return to peace. I will no longer feed the heaviness. And that day, instead of complaining, she asked a different question. How was your day? And she took a breath before responding. She didn't take the bait. She chose a softer tone. It didn't turn into a miracle. It didn't turn into a movie scene. But something truly valuable happened. She took her sense of control back. And when a woman takes her control back, the home begins to change. That's the fifth mystery. It's realizing that protection isn't only about what comes from the outside. It's also protection from what eats away at you on the inside. guilt, resentment, fear, harsh words. So now I'm going to give you a simple, symbolic, and safe practice you can do today. And if you want, you can do it without anyone noticing. Before a meal or before going to bed, go to the table, touch the salt with 2 fingers, and say a phrase of restoration. You can use this one very simply. I release the weight. I choose to begin again. May there be peace in my home and in my heart. After that, do something that seems small, but truly changes the atmosphere of a home. Choose one act of repair, just one. It could be sending a kind message to someone in the house, washing a cup that was sitting there, doing it calmly, putting away something simple that had been neglected, apologizing for a tone you used, or if talking isn't possible, simply choosing not to hurt. That's what repair is. It's not humiliation, it's intelligence, it's care. And I know some people listening to this think, but I'm always the one repairing. It's always me. I understand. So let me tell you how to do this without destroying yourself. You repair without shrinking yourself. You choose peace without accepting disrespect. You choose lightness without becoming a doormat. That's maturity. That's wisdom. Now I want to give you a sign that the 5th mystery has begun to work in your life. You notice you react less impulsively. You feel your body relax. You sleep a little better. You sense the home breathing again. And to me, that is already a form of protection. Now I want a moment of commitment here, because this strengthens everything. If you're ready to begin again with lightness, comment, I begin again in peace. Write it like a key you turn inside yourself. And stay with me, because now I'm going to give you the most practical part of all, a simple 7-day routine, quick, to anchor these 5 mysteries into your daily life without exaggeration and without confusion. Let's go to the 7-day routine. Now I'm going to share the 7-day routine with you, and I want you to understand one thing. This is not meant to become a heavy obligation. It's meant to become a simple, light, and consistent path. There's only one rule. Every day, one small gesture, with presence. Day 1, the center. Leave the salt visible on the table and say silently, may there be order and peace in this home. Then choose one small organizing action, just one. Day 2, the pause. Before the first meal, touch the salt and take one slower, deeper breath. Then decide, today I won't add fuel to the fire. That alone changes the tone. Day 3, the word. At the table, choose a better word. Instead of a complaint, ask a simple question. Are you okay? And notice how the atmosphere responds. Day 4, the boundary. If a heavy topic comes up during a meal, save it for another moment. At the table, you protect the center. You can solve problems without destroying peace. Day 5, provision. Touch the salt and say, I honor my provision. Nothing is wasted here. And pause before spending out of anxiety. Day 6, repair. Choose one small repair. A kind gesture, an apology, a quiet act of help. Repair is protection. Repair is healing. Day 7, restoration. Touch the salt and say, I begin again in peace. Then give thanks for one small thing. Gratitude changes the atmosphere of a home. Now, what are the signs that this is working? First, you react less impulsively. Second, the house feels a little lighter, even without a big reason. Third, arguments decrease in intensity, even if they still happen. Fourth, you feel more desire to organize, to care, to breathe. And fifth, your body rests better because your heart relaxes. And I want to tell you something important. If you do this for 7 days and feel improvement, continue. It's that simple. Consistency creates protection. Now I want to ask for one last gesture, because this truly strengthens the community. If you're going to do the 7-day routine, comment, I accept 7 days of peace. And stay with me for just a few more seconds, because I want to close with a message that can stay with you over the next few days. And I'll also tell you the next step I recommend to keep strengthening your home. If you made it this far, it wasn't by accident. You needed a simple path to bring order and peace back into your home. Subscribe now, because here you'll learn, every week, small, respectful steps for home protection and conscious prosperity. And in the next video, I'll show you one detail that many people overlook at the front door, and how it might be leaving your home vulnerable without you even realizing it.